This short video is going to cover how we build scorecards manually in Scoreboard. First, I'm going to show you some scorecards that have already been built, so you'll have a picture of why we're building them the way we are when we start in an empty database. So I'm in a demo database and I have several different kinds of scorecards. Let's take a look at a safety, quality, reliability type scorecard, typical manufacturing performance scorecard. When you look at this scorecard, you can see that we have several key performance areas. We have quality, cost, safety, productivity, and people. We also, within these areas, have several objectives. Reduce defects from 3 per million to 2 per million. And then how do we score those objectives? By how we perform in our measures. We have other kinds of scorecards, for instance a P&L scorecard, where we don't have objectives. The P&L is naturally divided into key performance areas: income, expenses, other income, total income. And then we simply have the measures under that scorecard. In other scorecards, like Sales Rep Monthly Performance Scorecard, we simply have the name of the scorecard and the names of the sales representatives and their dollar production per month. So we have many different kinds of scorecards, and it's important to understand how they're structured when we start to build them manually. So we'll go to Scoreboard and we'll log in. You will have a username and password that has been assigned to you in your initial database setup. You will have already created your calendars, and when you log in, there's nothing else in the application. You always start by clicking on the upper left-hand section to choose the module in the application in which you would like to work. So we're going to work in Scorecards. As you can see, we have no organization structure. When we create an organization structure, it's typically a mirror of your organization map. So we will have executive team. So we can have a scorecard for the executive team. Under the executive team, we're going to have their departments, and we would then simply right-click and choose to create a new organization. So we'll have manufacturing, we may have sales, we may have marketing, and within each one of these areas we may have other subordinate areas, such as first shift, right-clicking every time, second shift allows me to make the choices. It's key here to understand that when you right-click and you're on an area, it creates it directly under it. So here, if I click on Executive Team, I have a linear relationship, everything in a line. If I click on Manufacturing, I have everything in a line. Once we've created the organization structure for which we have scorecards, then we can manually create a scorecard. In a scorecard, we have a spreadsheet name. So this is the executive team, and we're going to call this financial performance. The scorecard name is like the name of a workbook in Excel, or the file name if you don't have multiple workbooks. Once you have your scorecard name, you have to choose what kind of structure by the way that you build it. If all you have are measures and KPIs or KPIs, you simply select new KPI over and over and create that scorecard like the sales rep scorecard that I showed you. If you have key performance areas, for instance, we could have a key performance area called income or revenue. In this, let's just say we're going to make a scorecard from a profit and loss statement. In this case, we're going to skip having a new objective, and we're going to skip having a new subordinate area, and we're just going to have new KPIs. So in this case, I'm going to call this one monthly sales income. I'm going to report it monthly. The calendar that you select here represents the frequency at which you want to record the data. I can record a description, and then in navigation maps, or if I'm doing a balanced scorecard, strategy maps, the description will show up as a hover over. This is the most important thing to learn, and we will cover this twice. How do you establish the normalized score? We have a video on scoring, and I suggest that you watch it. But what we're doing here is the same thing that we do in schools when we try to establish a grade point average. We take disparate kinds of measurements, percentages, dollars, ratios, and based upon target values, we establish a score between 0 and 10. This gives us the ability to roll up a weighted average score for our key performance areas, or our objectives, or our subordinate areas. Each one of these is a way that you choose to normalize those scores. If you have a measure that is yes, no, the score is either 0 or 10. If it's goal only, you make the goal or you don't make the goal. The score is either 0 or 10. Two color goal only says that I have 3 thresholds where I would like to establish the score. If I'm at this measurement, my score is going to be 0. If I'm at this measurement, my score is going to be 5. And if I'm at this measurement, my score is going to be 10. Goal red flag is the classic scoring methodology that has been used over the past 2 decades. And what the goal red flag scoring algorithm does is say, you establish a value at which everything is okay, good. That's when it's going to turn green. And the score is going to be 6.67. You establish another value where it's going to turn red, and the score is going to be 3.33. The application then takes the difference between those two values and extends it appropriately to where the score will be 10 and where the score will be 0. It's a linear extension, which means that the difference between these two values is added on to this measurement to establish 0 and 10. Every other kind of scoring, you establish all the points. 0, 3.33, 6.67, 10. 0, 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10. Once you choose your scoring type, then you establish your thresholds. Numbers in the system can be shown in 3 different ways. A standard number means it does not have a currency sign or a percentage sign by it. Percentage means that any number entered as a whole number is automatically converted in the database to its decimal value, and it's shown as a whole percent. So if I were going to enter a 10 and it was a percentage, it would be represented as 10 with the percent sign. But in the database, it would be stored as 0.1. Currency causes the local currency according to what you've set up in the administration to appear by those numbers. The next thing we have to do is establish how is this aggregated. And what that means is when we're looking at a monthly measure and we want to see the value of the last 3 months as a quarterly measure, how do we combine those numbers? Clearly, if we're looking at monthly sales, you would add them together to come up with total sales for the quarter. That would be summing. If we're looking at percentages, you wouldn't want to add 90%, 90%, 90% so that you would have 270% for the quarter. You would average them. Many of our customers use a year-to-date target for each month. So you have a target for January, a year-to-date target for February, and a year-to-date target for March. At the end of March, for the first quarter value, you wouldn't add the year-to-date values for January, February, and March. So that would mean it's the last value, it's already aggregated. You specify in the application a default decimal precision, and it is specified as 2 when you install the application, but you can change that. You can also change that decimal precision by KPI. This is the place you do it. Your actual values can be recorded as a calculated value or manually entered or imported. The same thing for your threshold values. Here we only have 2 because we're doing red flag and goal. We can also do calculated, but we'll cover that in another session. So in this case, I'm just going to enter 5 and 10. And then I'm finished. Each one of your KPI types requires a different set of thresholds. Actually, I want to do 4-color blue. 4-color blue. 4-color blue. When we're looking at this now, you see that you have to establish the worst value where the score is 0. The red flag value where the score is 2.5. The goal value where the score is 5. The reach out value where the score is 7.5. And the best value where the score is 10. If you entered those, then you would have created your measures. Once you have created a scorecard, you can use it as a template and copy it and paste it to other similar scorecards. Paste scorecard. In situations where you have first shift, second shift, and third shift, you would probably have the same measures, so you would create your first shift scorecard and then copy and paste it to the second and third shifts. That's all there is to creating organizations and scorecards. In the next lesson, we're going to show you how to do this using our tool, Connect. So we'll talk to you then. Bye.